going to be due, and it made me think that it would be a good topic to do a video on. It's essentially the core of everything that I want to accomplish in my life. Trying to create a society, a civilization, and also an individual human that's capable of achieving its highest potential. It gets me... Alright, you two, chill out. There's a... if we're talking about the political system, there seems to be a fundamental, a core issue at the heart of this right-left spectrum. And it comes down to, do we value the individual more, or do we value the collective more? And this is our fundamental problem. Instead of deciding which one is more important, we should realize that they are both equally important. That just as I'm made of trillions of individual, interdependent components, so too is our society made of billions of individual humans. And through interdependent, synergistic cooperation, we are capable of accomplishing more than the sum of the total. Meaning that 7 billion individual humans all working independently by themselves without any help from anyone else or any kind of cooperation is not capable of achieving the same thing as 7 billion humans working together. And this is a deep concept. I mean, there's a lot of things to be delved into here. What is it that an individual... Well, okay, first, I want to clarify that the mistake with the current system is that these things need to be treated as equals. The individual and the collective are each 50%. They are equally important. And where government and politics and the political system, or the system of... Let's just stick with government, I suppose. The purpose of government is to ensure that power is not used to negatively affect any part of the system. So the system is made up of individuals. So the government needs to prevent individuals from negatively affecting the life, liberty, or pursuit of happiness of another individual. And it also needs to protect other aspects of the society, which could be organizations or entities or the collective. In general, society, all of the people, like, what is the common goal that we're all working towards? And we need to make sure that any one individual is not threatening that collective goal. And we also need to make sure that the collective, or groups or entities, are not negatively affecting the life, liberty, or pursuit of happiness of the individuals. And this is kind of the extent of where government ends. The morality portion of government, where it's deciding what's right or wrong. Well, what's right or wrong has to do, if morality has to do with well-being, and well-being has to do with the prevention of suffering, or the limitation of one's potential. And this is where the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness comes into play, is that we need to make sure that no entity, individual, or organization is negatively affecting the life, liberty, or pursuit of happiness of any of these other entities, organizations, or individuals. And then that's the government's role. Now, if you wanted to add into that, like, the collective aspect, where infrastructure that's for the public good is included in this, but you could also privatize that, and essentially they would be the same structure. It wouldn't necessarily matter one way or the other if it's centralized or privatized, as long as they have the same goals. So it seems a necessity to me to have the protection of one individual versus another under a centralized. Hi, honey. Are you coming in now?
Not yet, I'm just checking on dinner.
Okay. So the certain things need to be centralized. Some things can be privatized or centralized, and it wouldn't necessarily matter. So the most basic thing that has to be centralized is this protection of one entity over another. It's essentially controlling power hierarchies, maintaining that. While I think we all need to accept the fact that power, competition, and relationships, I mean, power is a central component of socialization. And I think as long as we're social beings and we have the ability to obtain more skills than one another, there's always going to be a hierarchy. The key to an equal system is making sure that every person initially has access to everything that everyone else does. And really the key components of this are basic needs have to be able to be provided for. We have to have a positive environment for these people, and education is going to be the key. Everyone has to be able to obtain the same level of education. We cannot base the education budget on specific geographical locations, because it's just a recipe for discrimination, and that's exactly what we see. So it has to be a per capita. Federal-wide, every person on the planet gets a per capita amount, and this is basically for everything. As we're looking forward at the world becoming increasingly automated, we have to understand that work, the idea of work, is going to change. In our history, work was associated with being able to provide for our own needs. But with increased specialization, technological advancement, we are capable of eliminating the necessity for menial work. We no longer have to work to earn a paycheck or to help society develop so much, because many people, I don't think, are necessarily going to be capable of necessarily helping society as a whole grow going forward. But that doesn't necessarily devalue them as an individual. And this is the important distinction between individual and society, or the collective. But again, neither is devalued by that. If an individual spends their whole life traveling and learning and not necessarily contributing to society, we could still benefit from that. I mean, different perspectives, and I would imagine they would still contribute in different ways. I mean, but be it some creative or artistic aspect, or just generally by being a person that's self-actualized and pursuing their highest happiness. That, to me, having that kind of person in society is a plus. And there would also be people that wouldn't do anything. They would waste away, or they would do nothing, and they wouldn't make themselves or society better in any way. They wouldn't contribute in any way. But this is okay too, because evolution kind of works itself out in this situation, where that person is going to be much less likely, especially in a self-actualized society, to be able to find a mate, period, let alone be it a good relationship that will foster healthy children, and they will be able to raise those children in healthy ways. Generally, that lifeline is going to end, and sometimes we need to take the warning stickers off shit and let evolution take its course. I think, again, there's nothing necessarily, as far as we know, sacred about life. And we shouldn't overvalue it or undervalue it. We need to take a pragmatic approach to everything that we do. And let people live the way they want to live. And also encourage people to be the best possible people they can be to maximize their contribution to the collective. But it's kind of our own responsibility, right? I mean, we've voted, and we've been the sowers of what we will reap, and what we're reaping now. That we haven't maybe necessarily all been able to understand fully the entire system and how all of its effects would manifest, or what decisions we make now, how they will manifest. But that's why it's so important to create a system in which we can look at all these issues scientifically, where we can present an issue, test it, and if it works, or it works a little bit, or it works a little better than what we've got now, or it doesn't work at all, then we can modify and change, and we have this system in place that accepts the dynamism, how dynamic the world is, how quickly things change, and that what we're so sure of right now, 100 years from now or 1,000 years from now, will probably not be accurate or effective or logical or reasonable. As we learn more and more, then we have a responsibility to act in more and more evolved ways. And so that's what we need to do, is we need to create this system where the central goal is, first off, figuring out, okay, what is our collective goal? What are we working for? Which I personally think should be to, as far as we know, we're the only life form in this universe. So first we should be looking for other life. And if we are the only life, then we should be expanding ourselves throughout the universe. We have a responsibility to do so. I mean, as far as we know, our #1 priority is procreation. We have the ability, one of the most miraculous abilities that we have is, I mean, we've got to learn and to create. And one of the most complex things we can create is another human. Like, we have nothing technologically even close to be able to create another human, and we can just do it naturally. But that comes with a responsibility. It comes with this idea of, okay, why are we doing this? I mean, yeah, maybe it's just this self-serving process where we don't necessarily have some higher thing that we're looking for. But why couldn't we? And I think religion has kind of filled that thing, but I think we're kind of coming to the conclusion, I would hope, or at least we're moving in that direction, that these are not literally, they're not supposed to be literally taken serious. I mean, it was the best ideas that people had, and I'm sorry that people get their feelings hurt, that what they believe and what they've been taught their whole life is just like stories and allegories. But we need to get over it, and we need to think about a higher process here. We need to think about, how do we become the best individuals and collective that we can possibly be? How do we be the happiest, healthiest, most fulfilled, loving, compassionate, empathetic, progressive, and like, just how do we fulfill our highest potential as individuals and as a collective? I mean, I think they go hand in hand. I mean, one fuels the other. One is capable of creating a better circumstance for the other. So let's start looking at this. Let's start, and one of the important, basic, fundamental aspects of this is that we all have to do it together. If we spread the power out among all of us, then we avoid many of the pitfalls that have fallen upon humanity in the past, where one group or person or individual or entity gets too much power and it corrupts them. And they use that in negative ways instead of empowering ways. I hope I can look forward to having everyone's help on this.